Welcome to the interview. I'm Marcus Karlsson. Today I'm sitting down with a man who arguably has one of the toughest jobs in Europe. Yannis Varoufakis was thrust into the international spotlight earlier this year when he became Greek Finance Minister. One of his first tasks in office was to negotiate an extension of the Eurozone's aid program for Greece. He did so successfully, but now, only weeks afterwards, there's fresh speculation that Greece may run out of money as it awaits another 7.2 billion bailout tranche from the rest of the Eurozone. Minister, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us, first of all. Now, you stepped into your current job from a relatively low-profile job in academia. What has that experience been like, and what's been the toughest thing you've had to do as minister?
Well, the crucial point here is that I came in with my eyes wide open, so I was expecting a tsunami to hit me the moment I took this job. So when expectations are confirmed by reality, the shock is lessened substantially. What is the most astounding aspect of this job? Well, the support of the Greek people on the streets. One is not used to the notion of a finance minister who can walk around freely and actually be supported and patted on the back. That has taken me aback.
So you're feeling support from the Greek population?
So far.
Now, it's unclear how much money Greece actually has in its coffers at this stage. It's one of the things that is being talked about in international markets. How much money does Greece have at the moment, and when will the money run out, so to speak? There's talk of 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Nobody seems to be very sure.
Well, this is a very impertinent question to put to a finance minister. Surely you're not expecting an answer regarding the specifics.
I know that you're a straight talker, sir, so I'm hoping for that.
I'm a straight talker, and let me answer the question straightforwardly in a manner which elucidates the point. Greece was always going to have a difficult March for 2015, always. If you look at the repayment schedules that were designed back in 2012, there was always going to be a hump in March, April of 2015.
Because you've got one repayment to the IMF coming
That's
up
right.
of 1.2 billion euros.
Our repayments are lumpy. They're not smooth. Perhaps they could have been designed in a better manner by previous governments as well as by our creditors, but this is the situation. We chose the strategy of speaking frankly to our partners and saying to them that our priority is not to get the next loan tranche above all else. What our priority is to stabilize the Greek economy and end the downward spiral, the debt deflationary spiral, which makes a bad thing worse and has been doing this for 5 years now. During this process, as you know, as you have been following, we managed to come to a momentous agreement on the 20th of February, and now I'm happy to report that we have begun the implementation of it. Just as the Greek government is doing its bit to implement the policy, today we had the commencement of the Brussels Group negotiations between the institutions and the Greek government.
Technical talks.
Tomorrow there will be fact-finding missions in Greece, reporting to the Brussels Group, assisting the Brussels Group in its deliberation.
But what does that mean in terms
means
of
that
having money
institutions
in the next few weeks and the next few months to come?
Well, what it means is this. Europe operates in a particular fashion that everybody knows. It's quite bureaucratic, but nevertheless it works. It operates on the basis of compromise and dialogue. We are part of this dialogue. The process has started to implement the 20th of February agreement. The Greek government is doing its part, and we have no doubt that the institutions will do their part, which is to make sure that a relatively small cash flow problem, particularly connected to a repayment to the IMF in the next few weeks, is going to be smoothed over.
So you say that there is a problem, but you're going to
Of course, there was always going to be a problem. As I said, the time schedule of the Greek repayments always had a lump in March and April. This was always known. And however, because it was known, the institutions and the Greek government have taken measures, and I'm sure we will come to an agreement that will see to it that a small cash flow problem is not going to be allowed to derail a process that we all worked very hard to establish, to commence, and now we are in the process of completing it.
But just to be clear, you're saying that you might postpone or push off your debt repayments?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was, Greece is doing its part, the institutions will do their part, so that there will be absolutely no need for any postponement of repayments, so that the liquidity issue is dealt with in a timely manner, and in a manner which is consistent with what the Eurozone has been doing over the last few years. This is not the first time we've had a similar situation. Let me remind you that the summer of 2012 was precisely such a case.
Now, you're currently in talks, you've alluded to it, to get your hands on a €7.2 billion bailout tranche from the rest of the Eurozone. We've seen negotiations in the past few weeks, in the past few months, being pretty tense. You put it to us earlier that you've been frank with your partners. As I say, though, we've seen a pretty tense negotiation landscape in front of us, at least from our perspective, the media perspective. How tense has it been?
It's been quite tense and utterly civilized at the very same time. Look, let me put it simply. When frankness appears on the horizon, often tension follows. But then that tension gets resolved. And to the extent that everybody is honest about the situation and they put forward in good faith suggestions, this tension, once it is resolved, gives rise to a synthesis of views and to an improvement in the program, in the process, and in the policies that are being implemented. And this is how Europe works.
Some might say that you've misplayed your card, though, because there's been quite an intense pushback from the rest of the Eurozone, Germany in particular, but also from other countries. Have you misplayed your cards?
Absolutely not. And let me be clear on this. There is no doubt that the Greek problem irks many of our colleagues in Europe. And they would like to imagine that they've put it away, that it's on autopilot, it's being resolved, the Greek government does what it's being told to do or what it has agreed to do, and the money flows from one loan tranche to another. I wish that were the case. The reason why I'm standing here or sitting here in front of you, the reason why we were elected, was because the Greek people decided that the program that was being implemented, while on autopilot, was not leading to a good place. It was reinforcing the crisis rather than resolving it. Mm-hmm. Now, there is institutional inertia. No institution or set of institutions like to be told that the program we've been implementing has been a failure. So when you come out and you say those words, clearly there's going to be tension. But it is our moral duty to our partners to say that this particular program has been failing. Why? Because this program costs our European partners a lot of money and our international partners. And we can't afford to throw more good money after bad money. And this is why this government has actually done quite a heroic thing, quite a brave thing. We've said, we're not interested in the 7 point something billion, I should say, loan tranche. Above all else, we place the conversation on how to stabilize Greece so as not to continue to be a burden on our partners. And that, I think, needs to be commended. And we didn't overplay any card.
But let me push back a little bit when you say that it should be a conversation. We've just heard recently from the Greek Justice Minister that he's ready to implement a ruling in Greece that would allow the country to cease German assets in war reparations from the Second World War. Is that a statement that's helpful?
You're touching upon an issue that has historic, moral, and even cultural significance. Mm-hmm. This is not a question that you should properly put to a Minister of Finance engaged in negotiations with our partners. The two issues are utterly separate and should be kept quite separate.
But they're being tangled often.
I know, but
my job is
to disentangle them. My job is to make sure that separate issues are not allowed to be entangled. But since we are all citizens of Europe, let me just wear for a moment my hat as a European and say that those historical duties and legacies need to be dealt with sensitively from all sides. We should not allow the past to rein in on the present and to impede the future. But at the very same time, let me also make a point. Unfortunately, this crisis of the last 5 years has turned one proud nation against the other. This is something we should avoid. When I go to various northern European countries, I'm often asked on the street, when are you going to pay your debt back? A debt is a debt is a debt. Well, if that is true, then a debt must be a debt and a debt everywhere. and all sorts of debts, especially those that are weighed down by historical significance.
So you want Germany to pay the war reparations?
Unless, of course, we all decide that debts can be forgiven and can be restructured, which is something that every economist, every banker, every bankruptcy lawyer, and every historically minded citizen should take very seriously.
I just want to look ahead a little bit. I want to look ahead to a scenario where Greece remains in the Eurozone. There's been talk of a Grexit, but I want to look at a scenario where Greece remains in the Eurozone. We've talked
It's the only scenario, sir.
I take your point.
If we're Europeanists,
but if we look
we
ahead,
must put out of our mind the notion of the fragmentation of the Eurozone. This is a very dangerous thought, and it's one that should be expunged from our mindset.
If we look ahead, though, after all that's been said and done, we've seen billions of euros pour out of Greece in the past few weeks. People, ordinary people, have taken their euros out of Greek bank accounts and they've put them elsewhere. How will you, as a government, regain investor confidence and regain the confidence of ordinary depositors in Greece, even? If we look ahead.
Allow me to answer the question by rephrasing it. The question is not how are we going to regain the confidence of depositors and investors, more generally speaking. I'm broadening the question. The question is how is Europe going to do it? Because when the international press, politicians around Europe, begin to contemplate Grexit, Brexit, Spanish exit, whatever exit, whenever we start contemplating the fragmentation or amputation of various parts of the Eurozone, we are creating a prophecy that is very powerful and which is self-confirming. Europe should do what Mr. Draghi did in the summer of 2012 so effectively. Remember what he said? That the ECB will do whatever it takes to preserve the Eurozone. This is the gospel that we should all be reading from, that Europe is indivisive, the Eurozone is not to be fragmented, and anyone who contemplates its fragmentation is either wittingly or unwittingly anti-European in their narratives.
Yannis Varoufakis, unfortunately we have run out of time. I want to thank you nonetheless for taking the time to speak to us here at France 24, and I hope to be able to speak to you in the not so distant future. That once again was Yannis Varoufakis, the Greek finance minister, and with that we're going to be wrapping up this program. Thanks for watching.